So welcome to this session on SQL Server for Java developers. My name is Tobias Ternström, and this is Andrea Lam. So we work on, amongst other things, on our support for Java. And this, just to be clear, this is focused on like a Java app using SQL Server, and not Java inside SQL Server, which is also an interesting topic that we're looking into. Raise of hands, just quick. How many of you guys use SQL Server today? I'm guessing almost everyone. Okay. So what we're going to cover is as follows. Our JDBC driver, we just open sourced it last year. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Which, like, feature support, where we are at currently with the driver, areas of focus, what we're working on. And then we're going to talk a little bit about these elastic client drivers, so ability to build basically SaaS applications that are kind of tenant aware using Java and SQL Server. And then we'll do a bunch of demos as we go through this. And please, given it's a small crowd, let's just, if you have questions, just raise your hand or ask them out so that we can have an interactive session. Okay?
Cool. So, you guys actually use Java and build applications, all right? And then how many of you guys use like C# or any other languages out there? Perfect. So everything in this top row here is what Microsoft develops in terms of client drivers. So client drivers are used to connect your application written in whatever programming language to SQL Server. SQL Server, if you guys haven't already heard, SQL Server 2017 is now available on Linux. We also provide Docker images, so if you're on a Mac, you can easily connect to SQL Server running locally, and obviously on Windows like we always have. So everything in the top row, we at Microsoft on our team, we develop and we ship. So that includes the C#, the Java, C++, ODBC driver, and PHP. And then everything in the second row is what we do with the open source community. So we've been working with a lot of the guys in the Go community, the Ruby and the Python, as well as JavaScript communities, just to kind of understand what their needs are. They already have existing client drivers that we're starting to contribute to. So we're really trying to embrace this whole open source concept and trying to kind of give back to the community, whether it's through helping them test on SQL Server, getting them SQL Server instances, and we're really trying to aim to have as many languages supported as possible for SQL Server, because we want to basically enable any developer out there who wants to use SQL Server, and it shouldn't be kind of constrained to your language. It shouldn't only be for C#. So obviously today we're going to be focusing specifically on Java.
And I just mentioned we have this website, aka, if you go to aka.ms/SQLdev, you'll get to this website. And it's a good kind of getting started site with tutorials for a bunch of different languages. And by the way, when we talk about the drivers, it also applies to the Azure managed services, so Azure SQL Database and Azure SQL Data Warehouse. So for example, if I'm a Java developer here, I could go and say, well, I'm a Java developer and I'm using Mac OS as my kind of dev environment. And then it goes through, setting up your environment, creating a Java application, and using some special features in SQL Server. So in this case, setting up a Docker environment on your MacBook, installing Maven and whatnot you need.
So like Tobias mentioned earlier, last year, around November timeframe, we open sourced the JDBC driver. So a lot of the reasons we did that was because we realized that we weren't providing a native install experience for Java developers. A lot of Java developers already use Maven Central, if you guys are familiar with that. And we had never been on Maven. And I had spoken to a lot of people, and I said, what's the big thing that we're missing? Like, you guys aren't even on Maven. Like, oh, didn't even think about that. We were providing like a download center experience through the Microsoft Download Center. And I mean, you're not getting it programmatically. You would have to go out of your way to get it. So we wanted to make sure that we were baking in all these native install experiences for Java developers. And one of the big things about being on Maven is you also need to be open sourced. So what we did was we actually put all the source code straight up on GitHub, and I'll point to it later. And on GitHub, we've been able to kind of get more releases out quickly, get feedback from our customers, and make sure that we're fixing all the issues. Previously, we would, put out like previews every few months. Now we're putting out previews every few weeks. So that's been really awesome to kind of address issues as people find them. Everybody's been kind of getting hands-on on everything and filing issues on GitHub. And we've also had a bunch of contributions in terms of pull requests on our GitHub repository. So I'll point to that in a sec. Like I mentioned before, we're now releasing the jars on Maven Central, and that's been really awesome just to see how people are able to programmatically grab the jars instead of kind of going to our download center. So it's been really nice just to see the feedback from everyone. And our aim now is to kind of get these previews out every few weeks, and then we try to get stable releases out every 6 months or so. So we just released one of our most recent stable releases, and we're kind of aiming to get another one out by the end of this year. So I'm just going to switch over to Maven real quick. Oops, not Maven, GitHub. Let's see. So the short link for this is, if you guys want to check it out, aka.ms/mssql JDBC. So I'm on that right now. So as you guys can see here, we've got 30 issues open right now. And so it's been really nice just to get continuous feedback from people. So with every preview release, people will try it out, we'll file a new issue, and then we'll try to fix it within the subsequent preview release. So, takeaway for you guys, if you guys ever find any bugs, please feel free to file issues here.
And also, please feel free to fix them.
Yes. We've had one guy kind of just go through and just fix the readability of the code. That's been really nice because it's been kind of hard for our devs to kind of prioritize everything that's coming in. So if you guys find anything that just looks weird, maybe there's a white space, I don't mind if you guys just fix that as well. And so as you can see here, we've got a bunch of pull requests just kind of in right now, whether this is from our actual engineering team and the core devs that work on the JDBC driver and folks in the community. It's been really awesome just to kind of get new features in as we go along in preview. Like I said, source code is all up on GitHub, so we have a main branch that we've been releasing from. It's going to be our master branch. And so we basically...
Are all of the tests on GitHub?
Yeah, so we're working on open sourcing a bunch of our tests. So as you can imagine, we've always had our own test framework internally at Microsoft, and we're working on actually putting out more and more tests to make sure that anytime somebody provides a pull request, right up on GitHub, we use, what do we use? We use...
AppVeyor and Travis CI.
AppVeyor and Travis CI, yeah, that's correct. And then anything that we know kind of we're developing right now is going to be in our dev branch. So every preview release, we kind of merge back from dev into master. So pretty simple stuff. If you guys find any issues, please, please, please file issues, because we really want to make sure we're improving this JDBC driver, and we can't do it without your help.
I think it's the one issue, like the one kind of bigger problem we have with the GitHub thing right now is the fact that we don't have all of the tests there.
Yeah.
So we have, the CI pipelines. You check in, they kick off, they run, they pull down the SQL Server from Docker Hub and run through all of the tests. But that's not all of the tests. So that's a little bit of a problem. That then we will go and run a bunch of extra tests that haven't been ported into GitHub yet. So that's something that's kind of important to be aware of. Just because it passes the test that we have on GitHub so far doesn't mean that it passes the whole cycle.
But we're working on it. All right, let me switch back to the slides.
Click twice.
Cool. So I just included this happy slide for myself. One of my biggest achievements now has been making it to the front page of Hacker News, which was pretty awesome. I think we got to like 7 or something like that, and that's the highest I've ever gotten. So I'll take it. Otherwise, these are just happy tweets from people who finally say, yay, you're a Maven, congrats. Well, I'll smile about that, but anyways. All right, I'm going to switch over to a quick demo. Super simple. Talk about, now that we're on Maven, what that does for the development experience and how it makes everything much easier. So like Tobias pointed to you guys earlier, we have this fancy new website that our team created, aka.mssqldev. And this website just basically aims to provide you everything that you need to get started with any type of programming language on whatever operating system of choice. Now today I'm using this silver Mac thing. Traditionally I'm on Windows, but for the purpose of this, I know a lot of you guys may not already use Windows. So let's start with Mac. So I've already set up my Docker container. So let me run a quick Docker PS to prove to you guys that I have SQL Server running. Yay, SQL Server on Linux, on a Mac, in Docker. So it's running right now. It's in the background, so we don't worry too much about that. And I've already set up, I've got Java installed, I've got Maven installed in here as well. So I'm just going to show you guys how quickly it is just to get started. With Maven, everything is super simple. It creates all of the files that you need. So all your dependencies go into a file called a POM file, so pom.xml. And so I'm just going to run through this in Visual Studio Code. If you guys haven't already used this, it is awesome.
Can you bigify the font a little bit?
I will bigify. Is it? View, zoom.
Yeah.
Is this large enough? Can you guys see? Awesome. All right, so what this is going to do is it's going to basically create a Hello World app, and I'm just going to fill in the app code myself. Okay, cool. And so let me go ahead and I will open my new sample. Don't save. Okay, cool. So this basically just created a dependency file for me, and I'm just going to fill it in with all the things that I'm going to need to get started with Java. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the big things about being on Maven now, it just means that you can go ahead and add the JDBC driver to your Maven project. Super simple. So I'm just going to copy over this code, paste it right in here. And I want to make sure that I'm going to build against Java 8, because that's what I have running on my machine here. So I'm just going to paste this in, and then I'm going to save. And so for a first demo, I'm just going to show you how to quickly connect to your database and run a few queries, just a few CRUD, select, read, and update, and all that kind of stuff. So from here, I'm just going to go over to my app.java file. I'm just going to replace all this, hit save. I always forget to actually update my password. Oops. Close. Oh, gosh. Didn't mean to do that.
I just drag that one, yeah.
Yeah. Let me update my password. So I have, like I said, SQL Server running locally. Perfect. And once I do that, I'm going to open my terminal again. And I'm going to run a Maven package. And this is just going to build everything. It's going to take whatever jars I need. As you can see here, it should have pulled down the JDBC driver. Where are we? Let's pretend it did, and it's somewhere in that log. And then I'm going to just copy over this code. So the aim of this website is just to make sure that you can just copy and paste. You don't have to do anything yourself. And we're just going to build this, so just make sure everything, oops, I'm just going to execute it, make sure everything looks good. So as you can see here, it's connecting my SQL Server. It's going to create a database called sample database. And then it's going to fill in that database with some code, with some tables and create a schema. And what it's going to do, if it works, is basically add in a employees table and a countries table and just basically show where they're located. It's going to do it, trust me. Come on. Okay, so while we're waiting for that, do you guys have any questions just about like Maven and what it is? Maybe I can explain more about that, unless you guys already know, if you guys are Java developers. Run for me. It's Wi-Fi. Okay, so as we wait for that, one of the other things that we kind of take as a second step within this website is to actually provide you with steps to use an ORM. And an ORM is an object relational mapper. And basically what it does is just kind of a dev tool that you can use to basically simplify the management of your database. So instead of you going to create individual tables for different things in your database yourself, what the ORM does is it kind of abstracts away everything for you, and it kind of creates, you can kind of represent tables as models. So let's say I had an employee model, so to speak, and that employee has a name, a last name, as well as a maybe like location, for example. What it will do is, you can talk to that model and just say, hey, for my employee's model, I want to do this. So basically kind of just takes away this level of management for you, and it kind of like abstracts a few things away for you. So that's going to be my next demo. So did it not run? What is it doing? Okay, let me make sure my Docker container is running real quick. Yeah, should be good. All right. Demo is not with me today. I'm going to stop this real quick. All right. I'm going to stop that. Sorry guys, this is working this morning. All right, switch back over. Okay, so I stopped my container, and I'm going to run back to my handy website and just copy over my Docker run command. I'm going to change my password real quick. And so this is just super simple just to get started with Docker on anything. You can also get Docker on your Windows machine, which means it's cool because you can actually run a Docker container that has Linux on it within your Windows VM. So OS virtualization is very handy for, when you want to test against different OSs for where your SQL Server is running. Perhaps you have SQL Server running in Linux in your production environment. You have a Windows computer, you just want to do all those tests, you can easily do that with Docker. All right, so let me try that one more time. I'm going to switch back to Visual Studio Code. Let's try that. View, integrated terminal, no. All right, let's just close that. I'm going to run it from here. CD, SQL Server sample. All right, let's just try this. Maven clean it. Okay, Maven package again. And this website is super simple and easy to use because all I do is just copy. And we'll switch back over and we'll run that. While I'm here, I'm just going to open this again, make sure it's all there. Don't know why it doesn't want to help me today. All right, this one's taking too long. I'm just going to cut straight to the next one. So, as I mentioned before with Hibernate, what we're doing is using an ORM to kind of abstract away some of these objects for you, and we'll call everything a model in that sense. So I'm going to run a new terminal and show this to you guys. Okay, let me zoom in a bit. Bigger. All right, so I'm going to create a new project called Hibernate. Like I mentioned before, this is going to be, again, another type of Hello World app that's going to set up for me in the beginning, and I'm just going to replace the app code with whatever I have on my website over here. So we need to update the JDBC driver. And I'm going to also, so at this point, I'm going to add Hibernate as a dependency in my POM file. So let's go ahead and we're going to open it up real quick. Open Hibernate sample. And I'm just going to paste it in. So that means I'm going to get my JDBC driver as well as Hibernate. And then even within my sample code in my app.java, I'm just going to replace it. It's still running. Replace it with, oops, let's grab this properties as well. And switch back to my POM file. And this is just going to make sure when it builds the project, it's going to build it against Java 8. And switch back. So here, for the models, for every model, you create a new Java class, essentially. So in this example, we have a user and tasks. So my user table, I'm going to create, or my user model. So I do that by creating a new file within my main folder. So file, paste that in, and I'm going to save it as user.java. And make sure that's in here. And then I'm also going to create a tasks file. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. New file, paste, and save this as task.java. And we'll make sure it's beside our app code. And then we're going to create, oops, no, I'm going to copy this right into my app.java. And I'm going to replace my password, Ignite 2017. All right. And then from there, let's switch back to the website. I'm going to package this again. Just make sure you guys can see that. Maven package. What is it? Oh, oops. CD SQL Server Hibernate sample. What's it called? All right, let's build that one more time. It does not like me today. Yep, I have a typo. Maven oakage is not a thing. Sorry, guys. Can't type. Okay, so this is just going to pull down all the dependencies I need. This time it actually shows that I'm pulling down the JDBC driver using my POM file. And if you'll stay with me for just a second, this is going to do a bunch of stuff. And so if all of this works, what this is going to do is it's going to create a bunch of users, and then it's going to assign them a bunch of tasks. If the internet will work with me. Should I just skip through this? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're good. Any questions?
Try the website because it should work, and I've tested it a bunch of times, so it's not working for me right now, but you've tried it, right?
Yeah. How many of you guys have used the JDBC driver for SQL? 4.2.
4.2? How about you? Don't say 4.0. Don't use 4.0. 4.0 is one of our latest, oldest drivers. It's not in support anymore. I encourage all of you to kind of update to our newest drivers. 6.2 is our most recent one. That's going to make sure that you get all of the new feature support. And so I'm going to go over some of the features. Should I switch over to the features?
Yeah, yes.
Man, why won't my demos work today? All right. New features. Oh, it did work.
Focus.
Okay. So what version of Java are you guys running right now? 8? Hopefully 8. Hopefully not 5. Good answer. And so in the most recent drivers, we've provided support for JDK 7 and 8. And that just means Oracle has been working on their extended support, and that will go till 2022 for Java 7. So we're going to try to dock in with Oracle and what they do to provide support, because obviously a lot of you guys are actually using the official Java, so we want to make sure that we support that as far as you guys go. So we have 7 and 8. And have any of you guys tried out SQL Server 2016 and up? Cool. Have you guys heard of the always encrypted feature within SQL Server 2016? Yeah? Okay, so always encrypted is really awesome. It just means that you're able to actually encrypt your data both on the client side and in the server. So what it does is when you connect to the JDBC driver, let's say you have an encrypted column in your SQL Server, the app is actually able to decrypt the encrypted value from the server, and it actually can read it out to you in your Java application. Similarly, if you want to actually add encrypted data to your app, it's actually able to pass that encrypted information over to the server, and it actually is able to encrypt that for you as well. So it's pretty awesome. It just means that, like, let's say you're storing stuff like social security numbers, credit cards, I don't know, those types of things, you're actually able to make sure everything is super secure, and it makes sure that, you know, all the encryption is, you know, actually happening over the wire and stuff. So super awesome in terms of security features, and making sure that everything that you guys have stored in your database and that shows up on your client side, you know, fully supports all that encryption. Do you guys use Azure AD at all? Azure Active Directory? Perfect. So in terms of support for Azure Active Directory authentication in the JDBC driver, we actually there's 3 ways to do it. All 3 are supported on Windows. We're actually working on making sure that everything is also supported in Linux, because obviously Java being a cross-platform type of language, we want to make sure we have all the similar types of support for Windows and for Linux. Do you guys use table valued parameters, TVP? Do you guys know what TVP is? I will tell you. So basically, you're able to encapsulate rows of data within the client application, send that over to the server in one command. So it just makes everything a lot simple. So you can parameterize. Let's say you're doing a store procedure on your database. You can actually pass everything in as one command, and you can parameterize your queries. So it makes everything a little bit more efficient and hopefully
a lot faster.
And faster.
Because you can send like lots of rows in one batch to the server rather than multiple round trips.
And then for parameterized queries, do you guys know what that is too? Do you want to talk about PQ?
No, we will get into that.
So that basically allows you to retrieve metadata from prepared statements, and Tobias will kind of drill into what prepared statements are and stuff like that to make sure that you can actually do like complex queries and stuff.
Ooh.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just going to talk about bulk copy.
We'll continue. Yeah. Okay.
So bulk copy basically allows you to copy large amounts of data into your database. Super simple, quick and easy. You can move large amounts of data. All right, let's keep going. And then obviously that's kind of what we have supported. So the next set of features I'm going to talk about is what we're going to be working on and try to get released in the next few previews and or stable version. So Tobias here, my friend, he's the performance guy. He's going to talk a little bit more about what we're doing to improve performance for our driver caching and for bulk loading. As you guys know, we're kind of working on Java 9. Java 9, I think, actually came out last week officially. And what we're going to be doing is working on supporting that, making sure that any new things that are happening in Java we support. Along with that, they're going to be releasing, or they're working on, a new JDBC spec. So we try to make sure that our JDBC driver is as aligned as possible, and everything that's covered in the JDBC spec we follow to a T. So the newest JDBC spec is going to be called 4.3, and we're going to be working on that and making sure that all that is supported as well. And like I mentioned before, Azure AD basically allows you to authenticate users that you have created in an Active Directory up in the cloud on Azure. And we want to make sure that any Java application that wants to use Azure AD, whether it's a Linux-based application or a Windows-based application, is able to authenticate into SQL Server. So our next big area of focus is on Linux. We actually, like I mentioned before, we have 3 kind of methods available for Azure Active Directory. We're only really missing one for Linux, and that's our integrated method, and that's kind of been causing a little bit of a headache for some of our engineers. So working on that, hopefully get that out soon in one of our next previews, and hopefully you guys can try that out. So Tobias is going to jump into
statements and prepared statements. Yes. So so I'm not really a Java guy, but I got tricked by my previous boss into dealing with this, which was very interesting. So we had basically a big discussion in one of the GitHub issues about the use of prepared statement handles by SQL Server and in our Java JDBC driver. So he basically asked me, hey Tobias, since you know what prepared statements are, can you go answer the question about this GitHub issue? I'm like, yes, of course, I'm happy to go answer the question. But it turns out I know nothing about the JDBC driver or Java, which was a very interesting thing. So Prepared statements in database terms typically means you send a request to the server, right? The server does parsing of the request, builds an execution plan and so on, and sends you a handle back, right? Like, this is now query number 5. And then from that same connection, you can just tell the server, hey, please execute 5 again, and again, and again, right? And that obviously reduces network traffic, what you send to the server, plus it makes it more efficient on the server side because you don't have to build execution plans and all of these things for every execution. So I'm like, oh, that's great. Let me answer the question. So there was a discussion there about our behavior in the JDBC driver for prepared statements. So basically, with prepared statements in JDBC, right, you use a prepared statement, you execute it the first time, it will send to the server something we call prep execute, which means prepare the handle and execute it once. You send the handle back. And then when you close the handle, right, if you use try or if you close explicitly, it will send an SP unprepare to the server to say, hey, I'm not going to use this handle anymore, please forget it. Okay? The problem was that, so I came there and they basically say, hey, the performance of the driver is not very good because every time I use a prepared statement, it does these 2 round trips instead of just 1 round trip. Okay? So basically, I went and started explaining that you really shouldn't use prepared statements because prepared statements for SQL Server makes very little sense given that we have very good execution plan reuse, so caching on the server side. So unless you send huge SQL queries in terms of the text, right? Because there is some work for us to look that up in the cache, and there's obviously the network traffic. So unless you repeatedly send huge texts over the network, and you know that that's a real bottleneck, which it very rarely is, so only for an extremely chatty app with very large text, you shouldn't really use prepared statements. Okay? So I basically wrote an answer like this, and then the community educated young Tobias that, but prepared statements in Java you have to use in JDBC if you want to use parameterized queries, right? So if you want to be able to, in SQL you can either kind of build a string, concatenate a string together. If I want to select star from employees where name equals Tobias, right? I can either just build that string and concatenate in Tobias, or I can pass a parameter, right? And the driver handles passing in the value. And concatenating the string is extremely bad, right? Because it opens you up for SQL injection attacks. It also is bad from a caching perspective, reuse on the server, and so on. But turns out if you want to use parameterized queries according to the JDBC spec, you have to use prepared statement. So I got that reply, yes, Tobias, that's a great idea, you shouldn't do this, but in JDBC we have to. So I'm like, ooh, that's a problem. So we started looking into kind of how to solve this for the SQL Server JDBC driver. So traditional, like other JDBC drivers that have been out there for a longer time have this kind of caching behavior on the client side to basically reuse handles. And we never built that because the server does it automatically. Okay? So what we did as a kind of first step was, and let me actually show you just an example of the behavior here. I'm 8, yes. So here I have a kind of simple test. And this is the previous, before 6.3, our 6.3 driver behavior. So you can see here I create a prepared statement, and all I'm executing is select one, right? And then inside here I do a loop, and I do execute this statement. This is a good example of using prepared statements, because what will happen here is the server will get one prepare, right? Send back the handle, it will be statement 1, and then, let me just run this, and then for each iteration of the loop, subsequent iterations, so the 4 subsequent iterations in this for loop, will go ahead and run sp execute using that handle, right? And then at the end of the loop, it will exit the try, right? And try will automatically call close, which will call sp unprepare on the server side, right? So this is a good example use of this, like I have a loop and I'm reusing the prepared statement. But what if I do it the other way around? So I ran this test. Let's just see if... No, it's almost done. So here, this is, how many of you guys have used Profiler for SQL Server? So half or so. Super useful tools. You can see on the server side what's going on. You basically register with the server for events. So you can see here the first thing that the test executed was prep exec, select one, right? And then inside the for loop, I'm going to go and execute. I'm going to go and reuse that same handle. So just run 1, 1, 1. We exited the for loop, we exited the try block, and then we called sp unprepare. Right? So this is a good example use of this, right? But now, if we look at the simple change I did here was just I moved the try inside the for loop instead, right? So now, and this is obviously the more common example, right? It's not super common to have, somewhere in your code you're going to re-execute exactly the same SQL statement. Because typically you're, down somewhere in your business logic, so from a business logic perspective, you may be, iterating through invoices and for every invoice doing something, right? But your code is going to go and do invoice dot, update, right? And then it's going to down, and at some point it's going to create a prepared statement, inject some parameters, and execute. So it's almost always going to look like this from your perspective, right? So the loop will be outside the creation of a prepared statement. So let's look at what this looked like. So now I'm down here. So this is the first iteration. It prepares the statement handle. We get the statement handle 1 back, we can see here. That's the output. And then it, exits the try block, so we will execute sp unprepare. And then next iteration, unprepare. Next iteration, unprepare. Which means we're wasting 1 round trip to the server for every time, right? Which is very, very inefficient. This is, by the way, like once you so first of all, we want to get rid of these unprepares, right? That seems unnecessary. There is an open source driver as well called JTDS. That driver simply doesn't call sp unprepare. That's a bit of a problem because you're leaking handles on the server side. And the handles are connection wide, so it depends on how long you hold the connections open, but typically you do connection pooling, so it can be a while, right? So that's probably not something you want to do. And this is where TVPs can be super useful, right? So if you want to optimize, if you know you're sending a bunch of data over, it's much better create a TVP on the client side, basically an array, fill that with the data you want to send to the server, pass that to a prepared statement and hit execute. Then it's going to be 1 round trip, maybe multiple network packets, right, depending on the data, but it's going to be way more efficient. You're going to get, you can get 100-fold performance increase, right? So if you have an extremely chatty app, it's way better, as always, to batch, right? So if you haven't used TVPs and you're spending time in developing against SQL Server in Java or whatever language, that's a good kind of use of time to look at. So this was the kind of previous behavior before 6.3. So then what we added was 2 kind of simple things. So one is this, and this is the new default setting. So we have a, let me show you on the slide here. So we added 2 connection string parameters. You can also set it using a method on the connection object. So you can see here, what's it called? Server prepared statement discard threshold and enable prepare on first prepared statement. And both are kind of default on. So enable prepare on first prepared statement means, and that's false by default now. So that setting means if it's true, woo, we're safe.
I apologize for the inconvenience. I'll keep talking. Ladies and gentlemen.
No. Okay, cool. So basically what this enable prepare on first prepared statement means, if it's true, that's the current behavior, meaning the first time you execute a prepare statement, we will call prepare, right, and get the handle back. If it's false, which is the new default behavior, we will not actually create a handle. We will just execute the query and basically rely on SQL Server's caching of execution plans and so on, which anyway prepared statements do. So this means there is no unprepared to do, right? If you execute a second time on that same prepared statement instance, then we will go ahead and create the statement handle. So then the third execution on that same prepared statement instance, we will reuse the handle, okay? The next one that we added in at the same time, which is server prepared statement discard threshold, is, hey, instead of once you issue close on the client side, right, instead of immediately unpreparing, we'll just keep a list of handles that are discarded that we should unprepare. And then once it hits this threshold, then we will unprepare all of them in that list. So kind of the same type of batching I was talking about as with TVPs, we do here. Okay? So let's take a look at that. Oh, sorry. There we go. So now let me change this so we do the try inside the loop, and then we say enable prepare on first statement call false. And then I'll go ahead and add 2 more executes within the loop on the same prepared statement. The nice thing with this enable prepare on first call is that this is likely going to be just one execute. So that's just likely going to solve a whole ton of issues for you, right, in terms of performance, because we're not going to need to call unprepare to clean up. So here now, you can see the first execution in the for loop, it started with just doing sp execute SQL, which is just run it, don't create a handle, right? Second execute, now we created the handle, and the third execute, we reused that handle. And then now we unprepared, because we're using this unprepared threshold 0. So our default is 10 with this update. So let me change this to 4 so that we can see it in action. So now we go to the next iteration, same thing, sp execute SQL first, then second one we go and prepare a handle, then we reuse the handle, and then we unprepare. Okay? So now I restarted the test, and this time we have the threshold of 4 just so we will see the actual unprepare happening. So now it runs the test. See? So now we can see, same thing, right? sp execute SQL first. Second iteration, we go and prepare the handle. Then we reuse the handle for this third prep execute. Then we get to the next one. Now we do sp execute SQL again. You see the sp unprepare is missing now, because we never called sp unprepare. And then if we go down the line here you see, after the fifth one, so when I pass the threshold of 4, right, now we unprepare all of them in one go. So sp unprepare first handle, second, third, fourth, and fifth. And these two are kind of very simple changes, but it widely improves the performance of the driver, right, for most applications, because it's very, very common that you just do, create prepare statement, execute, close. It's a very, very common pattern. And this is what is currently in the driver. Now, what we're working on here also is getting proper statement pooling into the driver. So I spent some time working on that with Andrea. Unfortunately, we were going to release it, or we actually released it this summer, but we found some bugs related to batching support in JDBC, so we had to roll that back. So that is going through some more testing work, and we think we'll have statement pooling released in the January release. Yeah. Okay? And statement pooling, what that means is now within a connection, multiple prepared statements will actually reuse the handle. Okay? So let me try and turn that on. And we're working on a bunch of things. There's a bunch of activity actually on our GitHub repository related to this. So a guy, Brett Holbridge, is helping quite a lot. We also actually had some help from Google on this. So set statement pooling, so I'll just set statement pooling cache size to 10 in this case. And then let me just execute this again. So this statement pooling, what it does is basically when you come in and we see, first time you execute, right, we'll do SP execute SQL. Right? Next time, we'll go and prepare the statement. And then we'll cache that handle. So we create handle 1. So when you do close, the only thing we do is a reference counting, right? And this is what everyone else does. So we reference count and say, okay, no one is using this handle right now. Another one comes in and says, I'm going to execute the same query, right? Then we're going to say, oh, that one is already in the cache. Let me just reuse handle 1 again, right? And then basically when you hit the statement pooling cache size limit of 10, right, that's when we start evicting from the cache, and then it goes through that whole threshold thing to do SP unprepared, right? And there's a bunch of other caching aspects that we're doing related to also result caching, so we don't have to reparse and so on. So we're doing quite a lot with regards to performance here. So let's see if this makes sense now. Yes. So now you can see first iteration, hey, I'm going to execute this only once. I don't know if I'm going to see it again, so I'm just going to do SP execute SQL, right? Next time we come in, we say, well, I recognize this query. I've seen it before. Let me prepare a handle and execute. So now I have handle 1, and it's in the cache. So next iteration, even though it's a new prepared statement instance, we're just reusing that same handle. So now you see the handle is being reused. And then we never unprepare in this case, because we're going to close the connection. And I know when I close the connection, all of these prepared handles get fixed anyway, right? They get washed when I close the connection. Okay? And this obviously, also for a chatty app where you're reusing statements, it's going to improve performance even more. So I think when you look at the first, for a chatty app with smaller queries, if your wait time is really mostly on the network rather than the database, which is very common, then the first fix is going to at least double your performance, right? Because we have the round trips to the server. These fixes can do a lot in terms of possibly more than double the performance again, right? If you're interested in using this, you can use our dev branch, right? So that has those fixes. We just actually found an issue with one optimization we need to do. But anyway, and the dev branch is also supported by us, right? So if you have an issue, you file it on GitHub or you call customer support and we'll help you, okay? Any questions? Cool.
All right, let me just skip through some of these animations. I didn't realize there were so many. Do you guys have any applications where everything kind of, let's say you have a set of customers. Do you guys have like one single database and you put all that information onto a single database, and then as a result, anybody who wants to access that data, whether it's for a single customer or for multiple customers, needs to access that one single database? Do you guys have that type of model? Okay, so that's one type of model. That's called the multi-tenant model. So everybody shares that one database. All the customers will have to access that single database, and you can kind of control the number of connections to that database. But essentially what happens is, as your customer base grows, for example, that database will eventually have to continue to grow out, right? And so that's one type of database that you can potentially run. And then there's another one that we call the single tenant. So every customer that you have, you create a new database, and you say, like, customer A, that's your database. Customer B, that's your database. And so as customer A grows, they'll continue to use customer A database, and customer B may be, maybe a little bit smaller. But as a result, each customer has their own. What we kind of want to try to introduce is this kind of concept of a sharded multi-tenant. And basically what this means is you have a database per customer, and that allows you to isolate that information. So let's say, for example, you're an accounting company. You want to make sure that, say, one customer's tax information cannot be accessible by another customer. You want to make sure that all that is secure in their own database. And as each database kind of grows or becomes smaller, maybe it's tax season, that database is going to kind of grow rapidly and then kind of spin down, and you're never going to use it again. We basically want to kind of shard across all these databases and basically scale out. And so this is kind of a new type of database model or concept, and sharding basically allows you to kind of grow individual databases as you need to. And for a client application to actually speak to the database and kind of figure out, where customer A's information is it in database number 1, 2, or 3, you actually need support on the client side to actually be able to talk to your database and actually say like, hey, where can I find that information about this particular customer? So what we're working on right now is what we call the Elastic Database Client Library for Java. It's currently available in .NET. And basically what this allows you to do is actually talk to the main database. You can call it like a legend kind of thing. It's called a shard map manager. And when you connect to that app, from your application, you connect to that database, it basically points you to the database that you want to go. In that sense, kind of like a legend. So when I connect to, let's say, my shard map manager, and I say, hey, shard map manager, I'm trying to figure out where customer 3 is available. Well, that database may be like database number 1, 2, or 3, and I'll actually say, hey, Andrea, your database is that database should actually be this one, and it'll kind of point me to it. And basically what this allows you to do is, if let's say I want to create an aggregate report across all my customers, this shard map manager will allow me to say, hey, you want to collect information on these particular customers, I will point you directly to the customers of your choice in whatever query you're running, and I don't actually have to do anything on the client side. So when I connect to my database, I actually say, hey, shard map manager, this is the query that I want to run it for me. And so on our service, this is available in Azure SQL Database if you guys try that out in the cloud. What this allows me to do is actually build out very scalable apps and also isolated databases. And as I continue to grow my customer base, as I create new databases and scale up and scale down as I need to, this allows me to basically pay for what I'm actually using. So let's say, for example, like we talked about for accountants, some times of the year are more busy than others, right? And during that time of the year for tax season, I'm going to have a sporadic increase in my data and as well as my usage. So during that time of the year, I'm going to pay a little bit more. And so, after tax season is done and everything's filed, I'm going to kind of spin down databases as I need to. Maybe these customers don't need to access their databases anymore. So I can basically decrease my costs and make sure that I'm only paying for what I want to use and the storage that I need. So spinning up and spinning it down is kind of the goal of this, and making sure that, as well as isolated information, you're paying for the resources you need. So that's available in Azure SQL Database. You guys can try out the sample application that we have for .NET, and we're quickly working on trying to get it available in Java. We've had some people ask for it in our GitHub repository as well. So all this is actually going to use a JDBC driver under the hood to actually get you connected to your databases. But when you actually connect through the application in your connection string, you're just going to point it directly to the shard map manager, and that's going to do all the mapping for you. It's going to figure out what database you need to point to. So you don't really have to do much in your application. All you have to say is, hey, shard map manager, tell me where my database, tell me where my customer information is, for example. So hopefully that comes out soon, and you guys should kind of keep checked in. I'll probably announce something on the GitHub repository when that's available, and you guys should take that out for a test run. All right. Quickly switching over. Have you guys ever used application servers, or do you guys use like IBM WebSphere, maybe JBoss, SAP, NetWeaver? Yeah? Kind of? Okay. So app servers are typically used as a middleware kind of thing, usually for like highly transactional workloads. And so today I kind of just want to show you the support that we have for JBoss. That's just one of the many app servers available. We also work closely with IBM to make sure everything that we have available for Java and with SQL Server works well with WebSphere. So if you guys don't already know, JBoss is open source. It's available through Red Hat in their developer experience. I'm just going to show you today like how to actually get a JBoss app up and running, connecting to SQL Server. I'm going to do it all from this computer again. Hopefully it works for me this time. Let me switch over to 6. Oh, let's see. Cool. So what I have open is called the Red Hat JBoss Developer Studio. That's available for free through Red Hat. So when you go in, you just kind of sign up for their developer experience, and they kind of provide you with all the tools that you need to actually get started. So what I've done is I've just kind of taken their canonical sample application. It's called Ticket Monster. Very similar to Ticketmaster. You can just use it to create events or concerts and stuff like that, and sell the tickets to whatever event that you have running. So what I've done is I've actually hooked that up to my database running locally on Docker. So I just changed the connection string here. And I'm just going to pass in my username and my password. And this is going to be within my data source. I can actually specify what data source I actually want to point my application to. And within my persistence layer, I've just kind of, again, specified that I want to use this Ticketmonster DS that I've specified here. That's my data source name. And in here, it's also using Hibernate at the ORM level. So like I said before, it kind of abstracts away a bunch of these different things for you. So if we kind of just drill into what's available in this code. No, not this one. Let's see. Source. Oh, yeah, my persistent layer. Basically, all these, hopefully you guys can see that. If you squint a little, basically there's different tables. There's an address table, seat selector, ticket, what else is there? There's like ticket price and venue. And these are all the tables that Hibernate is actually going to create in the database for me. I won't actually have to do any work to make that possible. So I won't have to go pre-create the schema or anything. Hibernate's going to push all that onto my database for me. So hopefully if everything works, what I can do quickly is to actually run this run this application against a local installation of the Red Hat JBoss EAP server, and that's the enterprise application platform server that I have running on my machine. So if I hit go, hopefully this should work. Cool. And once this, this is the Ticketmonster app that's provided in their samples. And if everything works properly, what I should be able to do, and we can test this, is basically create a new event category. So let me just create something. Andrea's category, for example. Hit save. Oh no, something broke. Didn't like me. Ticket test. All right, let me switch back over to here real quick. Make sure that it actually built my... Okay. Just to be safe, I'm going to drop it. All right. Switch back over to master. And have you guys used Visual Studio Code before? The new text editor available? Okay, awesome. So inside Visual Studio Code, we actually have what we call the MS SQL extension. You guys can get that from the marketplace. It basically allows you to run queries against your database. Obviously, I'm using a Mac, and SSMS is not available right here. So I'm actually able to use this extension to just run queries. So as you can see here, I'm trying to drop my database.
Well,
hopefully this works. Yeah, I'm connecting to it.
Let me. We need to throw out your current connections.
Oh yeah. Oh no, it's good.
Okay.
I just stopped.
Beautiful.
I just stopped my server. All right. For some reason, this create is not working for me. So what I've done is a little bit of a hack. I've actually made sure that the schema is available, and Hibernate does this for me. But for some reason, everything's not being nice to me today. All right, let's try this one more time. Switch over, run this as a server, running locally on my computer here. Finish here. And this is just going to render that website for me once more. Man, none of these demos are working for me today. All right, you know what? I'm just going to show you this live. So I'm going to delete everything. I'm going to delete my project, and I'm going to show you exactly what I did to get this running. So let's switch back to my terminal. I'm going to basically just git clone this project that's available on the JBoss Developer Studio. It's called Ticketmonster Git. Nope, didn't want to remove that, so I'm going to delete this real quick, move it to trash. Okay, one more time. And all this is available, so you guys should check it out. It's JBoss-developer Ticketmonster. All their sample code is available on GitHub, and we've been talking to JBoss and Red Hat, making sure that everything works. And SQL Server is available actually on Red Hat Enterprise Linux along with Ubuntu and SUSE Enterprise. So we have a bunch of different distros that we're supporting. Okay, that's done. Okay, so from the Developer Studio, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to import the existing project that I have here. So I'm going to look for Ticket Monster, and I'm actually using the demo. And it's just, we're just going to open up this project real quick. Cool. From here, I'm just going to navigate over to the persistence layer. And I'll zoom in for you guys, make sure you guys can see. And so what it's going to do, the default behavior in this application is to create the database and then drop it afterwards, but I just want to make sure I keep it around. So I'm just going to update that. And then the only other place I need to update is to make sure that my application is pointing to my correct database running. So I'm going to go over to my cheat sheet that I have here, and I have this available. And I'm going to replace the data source. And so what this application has is an in-memory database. It's called, what do they call it? This H2, which is built in with Red Hat's Developer Studio. I'm just going to replace it and actually point it to my SQL Server that I have running. So I'm going to paste that in, save that. And if everything works for me, if I run it again, fingers crossed it works. Oh, let me stop that. Go that one more time. Finish. Let's see. It is not happy with me today. Okay. All right. Let's drop that database one more time and make sure everything's good.
But I think it's fine. I think let's just move. But I think the key thing to notice, even though the demo gods aren't with Andrea, is that this is all fully supported by Microsoft, right? So our JDBC driver is supported not only on Windows, but across operating systems, except for this Azure authentication thing that we're working on, which is only partly supported on Linux. And then same thing if you use it through JBoss or whatever you use. This is a kind of important thing. It's a theme from Microsoft, but also from the database systems team. So we put SQL Server on Linux, right? Focused on drivers across. It's not only .NET. We have equal focus across drivers. We also we don't go in and replace community drivers like Andrea pointed out. For example, JavaScript. I think that's actually a good example. So JavaScript, we actually went and created our own JavaScript driver or Node.js driver, but it was actually built on top of our ODBC driver. And at that time, the ODBC driver was only on Windows. And then there is actually an excellent community driver called TDS, which is funny because our network protocol is TDS, so they call it TDS. And instead of continuing with our driver, which we got lots of requests from people to convert that into native JavaScript driver, we said it's better to just bet on the community driver. So we're now committers on TDS and helping develop that driver. So if there is already kind of a vibrant community driver, then we want to join that community and just help improve that driver. And if there is a missing, then we may go and create one. So for example, on Go, if you're using Go, you should just use the Go community driver for SQL Server and not expect Microsoft to come and replace that with something else. Instead, we'll help them fix bugs in that driver, if that makes sense.
And all those languages are on the website as well. So we now have new tutorials for Go. So anytime we see kind of a new language emerging, we try to make sure we find that community and we contribute straight to it.
Yeah. Same with Ruby, with Tiny TDS and so on. So, like Andrea said, you should go to the AKMS SQL Dev site to find just the tutorials getting started. Hopefully you're in better luck than Andrea with running through the demos. And then our GitHub repository is very active. So that's the best place if you're not kind of in urgent need of help, meaning like today or tomorrow, then that's the best place to file an issue because you don't only get help from us, you get help from the community as well. And there's some really good people. For example, when I worked on the caching, statement pooling for the driver, needed to use a cache. So So went and said, well, Google has, what's it called again? The
Concurrent linked hash map.
No, not that one. The
Google
one,
Guava.
Yeah, Guava, right? The Guava project with Google for Java has a cache. So I started using that, and then actually the guy who wrote the cache for Guava at Google kind of chimed in on GitHub and said, hey, Tobias, maybe you should go and use this, our concurrent linked hash map, which is kind of a precursor to the Guava driver, but it's smaller and you could just embed it. You don't have to have a dependency on Guava. And then we went and did that, right? So that's actually a really good thing. So if you have issues, first go there. Otherwise, for sure, if you have kind of urgent issues, then you just call customer support and we'll help you. And by the way, customer support will help you if you use community open source drivers as well, right? It's not like we only support the Microsoft drivers. If you have a problem with TDS, you call customer support and they will escalate to us and we'll help you.
And kind of our last link here is what I've been trying to do is just kind of get a gauge on how happy Java developers are using the JDBC driver. Obviously, one of the biggest things we're working on is performance. So I've been kind of setting out surveys, surveys to our community. A lot of people have been saying like, hey, you need improved performance. And it's great to know that like this is one of the biggest pain points for everyone. So if you guys want to go ahead and try out this survey, you can basically rate us out of 10, how likely are you to recommend this JDBC driver? And you can leave me a note and say like, hey, this is great or this sucks. And it's good to know what's awesome and what doesn't work so well. So I mean, this is what we use to help prioritize what the team works on. And it's super important because I want to make sure that we are able to make everybody as happy as possible. So this is one of the ways that we do that, whether that's, you want to leave that anonymously. I don't actually know who actually submits these surveys. So some people have been very nice and some people have been very mean, but that's all the same. That's all kind of feedback that we need from the community. So if you
also you absolutely, you can send emails directly to us as well. So I'm tobiast@microsoft.com.
And I'm andrea.lamb@microsoft.com.
Cool. So thank you very much. We'll stay here and answer questions. Otherwise, feel free to provide evaluations online. And hopefully it was a useful thing to get a little bit of an update on what we're doing for Java developers. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.